Okay, and we're back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to not another podcast. This is episode 7, where we go beyond the headlines and just try to make sense of everything that's going on in the world right now so we can, find out what this all means. So today we'll be discussing two very interesting topics. So I'd like to just start off with the first one where we talk about social media, right? So, as we know, we're the generation that grew up with the internet. We being millennials, that is. So, we were born in the analog world but raised in a digital one. We remember time before likes, followers, and endless scrolling. I mean, we were teenagers when social media first hit, and now, as adults, we're still living in the middle of its influence. Social media wasn't something we were born into as millennials. It was something we were introduced to. We watched it evolve from BBM, Mixit, to Instagram Reels and TikTok. And through that evolution, it has shaped us. The way we express ourselves, the way we connect, and the way we see ourselves. Meanwhile, Gen Z, they were born into it. Their first steps were caught on camera, their earliest friendships digital, their ideas of identity and self worth closely tied to what appears online. So tonight we reflect on what social media has done to us and for us as a generation, what it's taught us, what it's taken from us, and where it's going. So let's talk about it, man. This is not another podcast joined by Dima Silwana, Sunshine Raz Msane, and myself, Sipo Ogwana. And yeah, let's talk about it, Jen. So I think my first question will be, yeah, how did each of you first experience social media? I'll start with Ndima.
How it shaped me was it it gave me the ability to really realize how it's going to change social interaction. So for me, I because when you think about how we first started interacting and started socializing, like with the opposite sex, for example, with girls, it really blew up in a time. Facebook, for example, really blew up around the time where we were starting to branch out and becoming more curious, and so I think we still had the advantage of still relying much more on direct social interaction. But then Facebook at the time was just a tool for maybe making things a little bit easier. So we didn't rely on it too much. So for me personally, it was just this new thing. It was a new tool that I could use to talk to my friends or talk to girls or whatever, but it wasn't a crutch. I didn't rely on it so much. But obviously as time went by, then its prevalence became way more. And so yeah, I think it had a positive effect on me because obviously, like I said, it was a tool more than anything else. But I think as time went by, and I don't know if anyone else can relate with this, but there was a point where I realized that I personally relied on it a little bit too much because of how accessible it was. And then I found myself sort of realizing that it was taking up too much time and I was overly relying on it. But I personally wouldn't say that it had that big of an effect on me in terms of my ability to socially interact and to build relationships. So yeah.
Great, bro. Great, bro. So just to move over to Raz, you said quite a bit, Ndima, in terms of our experience, our first experience with social media. And like you said, it really was a tool initially because it was relatively a new thing at the time. And we use it as a tool to access a bit more when it comes to socializing, like meeting friends, meeting new friends, talking to girls. It made a lot of things easier and accessible, and it took away that tension, that social kind of tension between two parties talking when you're meeting in the flesh versus when you're talking online. It's a lot easier to talk. So it gave us that advantage, from early on. And it was good and bad, right? Because it made things a lot easier in terms of talking and interacting with other people, making new friends, catching up, and all that. But also on the flip side, like you said about being a bit too over reliant on it, you find that some people, and it has affected like all of us in some way, that you become a bit too dependent on social media because of the ease and convenience the tool gives you in terms of communicating and interacting with others. So, Raz, what was your first experience with social media? Which was the first app you used, and what made you sign up?
Yeah. Greetings, everyone.
What up,
So
bro?
my first experience was Mixit. So what happened is in grade four, I'd left Rosebank Primary to come back and stay at the Eastern Cape in Mthatha. So I had a friend of mine who was from New Zealand, and he said to me, "Look, just get Mixit, and we'll be able to communicate." And I was like, "Okay." I didn't know what Mixit was at the time, and I didn't even understand what he meant. So I still left and didn't get Mixit. But when I got to Mthatha, I slowly realized that people in Tata are also using Mixit. So I was like, okay, I might as well hop on. And that's when I signed up for, I could say, my first social media network and started. However, what happened is, like Undima was saying, that then changed a lot because prior to having Mixit, if there was a girl I wanted at school, I'd write a letter or get a friend of mine to deliver some kind of letter to her telling her how I feel about her. But when Mixer came, now people were using their phones to send messages. So that changed now. Girls were more readily available, if I could say, instead of having to write letters and go far. So that was a good thing. I felt good about that because I could communicate with her even at night. Even though at that age we weren't supposed to have phones at night, it did help though. So I could say, look, it did open up things that weren't there before. Like Undima was saying, is it fully a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing? Look, I think too much of anything is bad. So social media is good, but too much of it may be bad sometimes. And obviously, there's people that just use it for the wrong reasons all the time. But generally, I think it's a good thing, man. It makes people connect. It does so much for people. So yeah, man, I'm loving this new social media era, man.
Man says he's loving the new social media era, and yeah, bro, good thing you brought up Mixit because I feel like that's where we all got introduced to social media. Because I remember my first experience with Mixit. I think I was like 12. I didn't have a phone at the time, but the story is that like my brother had left his phone at home, right? So this was great. He was in grade 10, I was in grade 6, and I was jealous because I didn't have a phone. So I got into his phone, bro, got onto his Mixit, and then started talking to people there. But I did let him know, like after school, that hey, I got into your Mixit because he had his. I talked to his then girlfriend at the time, right? And she was like, oh no, like your little brother's cute and all that shit. I wasn't like saying any random wild shit. So I just started talking to like him, his friends, and like his then girlfriend at the time. But then when you move when you move on from that, when we talk about high school, that's when I had my own phone and was on Mixit. That was my first like real introduction to social media and like the internet. Yeah, social media and the internet, and then yeah, bro, grade 9 was really a year when things were really starting to bubble up and pop off in terms of social media because not too long after I got Mexit, right? Like a few months after that, Facebook popped up, and I wasn't really phased with Facebook at the time because I didn't understand what the hype was. But I had friends who were on Facebook, right? And literally almost everyone in my class was on Facebook within like the first month it got introduced to us. And then it got to a point where I was like, dude, I guess I don't have much of a choice. I have to join this thing. Join Facebook. Yo, it opened my mind because I realized, yo, there's so much you can do here. Because I saw that even my older sisters were on this, my brother was on it, and it wasn't necessarily like a teenage thing. It was more of a varsity social networking platform at the time. So once I got on it, I started adding like friends here and there. I realized that yo, this is a great way to actually connect to to girls from other schools because especially
Yeah,
us three, because
access.
we went to a boys' school, so we were like very limited in terms of interacting with the opposite sex. But Facebook blew that right out of the water, dog. So you started befriending like these Huns from other schools, and I won't even lie, bro. In high school, I can say a solid 75% of the girls I met at the time was through Facebook, versus the
Mhm.
interaction, the real life interaction. Nah, no cap, dog. No cap, you
Yeah,
know? So
access, bro.
it's a crazy stat, bro, because it's like you would either a girl would add you as a friend or vice versa, right? And then I remember this was such like a
Poke.
formality. Nah, not even poke, dog. You'd go straight to her wall and be like, "Hey, thanks for the ad," and then based on her response,
Yeah.
she'd comment, "Ah, yeah, oh, nah, you're welcome." Niqale incoko kanjalo. And then that's where things would pick
Mm.
up. And so, like I said, bro, it really gave us guys who not who couldn't necessarily be interact with girls like day in day out, at school. It gave us a platform where we could actually get girls, or like befriend other gents from other schools and just form this virtual online network, which eventually became like your real life network. Because like I'll give you the dynamic, right? You'd meet a girl on Facebook, right? You'd initially connect with her on Facebook, and then, hey, thanks for the ad, yada yada yada. You guys exchange digits, you talk on Mixit, and then you meet on Saturday, with Duppy Day, and then based on the vibe you guys had, like in real life, like in the flesh, you would you would either carry on with that connection, friendship slash relationship, or you drop it there. And I won't even lie, bro. During that time, a lot of gents were getting catfished, bro. A lot of guys were getting,
Everyone was catfishing.
bro.
Everyone was catfishing, to be
Yeah,
fair, bro. Everyone was
talk
catfishing.
about it, Dira.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Just because everyone was doing it, because it was the first time where you could present yourself in a much more polished way
Yeah.
without actually like having to put in effort. So like either use a filter or like I don't know, like. But there was always like a lot of manipulation with your pictures that you could do
Mm,
to put out a more like sort of a more appealing like look for yourself.
mm,
And if you could match like in person, if you could match your picture, then cool, like you would get the girls. But if you're out there catfishing people and then you met the girl and then it's like a completely different story, then like you are just self-sabotaging yourself, and then it's like
bro.
you're messing with your own ability to build like a reputation with the opposite sex. But yeah, everyone was
Yeah.
catfishing.
Everyone was
Let's
catfished.
keep it a stack.
And can I tell you, there was a trend and a catchphrase on Twitter, bro. Whenever whenever someone would be catfishing, it was like, oh, hashtag Kanti Unje.
Yo.
Kanti Unje.
Yeah, that was rough.
Right. So we're talking about our first experiences with social media and Facebook, but I'd like to stay on this topic, this introductory part of the topic, because we got Mixit and Facebook, and then round about 2010, 2011, we got introduced, like social media evolved a bit, and we got other apps like BBM. BBM was a real game changer in terms of like instant messaging, and then we got Twitter as well.
Hmm.
So what like what how was BBM like for you guys? Because I feel like a lot of us came up through BBM. A lot of us got a lot of popularity through BBM, and like before WhatsApp, BBM was really really it. But there was even a damn song, Liquid Deep Check BBM, and you will see,
Yeah.
like
Oh my
BBM was
god.
it, bro. BIS, you had to hustle 60
Mm.
rand. You had to hustle 60 rand to subscribe to BIS every month, and then you everything else was for free, bro. And then that made things. I feel like BBM and the whole BIS saga at the time really accelerated social media and its development because we were just on it all day, every day. You know, it 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 it
Mm,
it it wiped out that barrier, that cost of access barrier, which made a lot more people, sign up to social media platforms like BBM and Twitter. So what? How did you get?
mm.
Yeah, I think I guess my question would be, how did BBM change things for you? I'll just give yeah. I'll start with Raz. How was it for you, Raz?
Dude, I feel like when we speak of BBM, BBM's like the iPhone of, it's like the Apple of back then. Because
Bro,
BBM, like you say, yeah, bro, because BBM was more like,
Mm,
it has these particular features and you don't get them unless you join the BBM
it was
crew.
elite.
unless you have a BlackBerry, like
You
you
get
could
what I'm
only be on
saying?
BBM if you had a BlackBerry. Yeah, yeah,
And everyone and the BIS, the whole system behind it, BIS, BlackBerry, everything, and so you just had to follow that system. So I feel like, I mean, that's the same with Apple today. So I feel like you're saying, Wilkes, it did accelerate the whole social media and even the whole data system, bro. Because that whole 60 rand to get this amount to be able to do this, it then became a whole system that they worked along
definitely.
moving forward. So definitely, man, BBM, BlackBerry, BIS changed the game, man. I think that was the founder, if you could say, Wilkes, of the new going into social media data, the
Mm,
gram era. Yeah.
yeah, but like, how did it help you? How did BBM help you in terms of your popularity back then, bro? Because Raz, remember the things we got up to, dog. Like during that particular era, and BBM was at the heart of it, bro. So I want you to talk about it, G.
You see, like I'm saying, dude, PBM going back to the whole iPhone situation, you could treat PBM like iPhone. So, but not everyone had a BlackBerry back then. Already, if you had a BlackBerry, you were put in a
Yeah,
certain category of people, at least in the social side, you know, and there'd be conversations. Obviously, if you don't have a BlackBerry, you couldn't partake in. Particularly, let's say you have a girlfriend and you don't have a BlackBerry, you wouldn't be able to be part of the whole BBM system, and you get left out in certain
dude,
conversations. So yo, bro, nah, it was too much. It was just too much.
it was too much. It was too much, and I feel like Raz is being political, and he's dodged the question. Like, what was your experience, bro? Like,
Mhm.
dog.
Come on, bro. Be honest.
Be
Be honest.
honest,
That's something I
bro.
want to get into, but I want to
Yeah,
hear Raz. Be honest, Raz.
like this is not the time to shy away, bro.
This is a safe space, man.
uh,
Exactly, G.
okay, experience in terms of what? Like how? Like you said, popularity wise,
I
if I remember.
How did it help you? How did BBM help you, in terms of
Come on.
social net, like meeting new people, and how much impact did it have on your social status and popularity back then?
Yeah, okay, dude. BBM, I could say that was the first time I cracked the social space in that way because that I met a lot of people in the BBM era.
Mm,
I got invitations to a lot of great events during the BBM era. I was able to be at many places during the BBM era because people, like I said, people in certain spaces were particularly using BBM. So yeah, I did
mm-hmm.
gain, I could say, a bit of some form of uh, founding popularity during that era because most people would have known me prior to what's this varsity and so forth. Obviously, would have started knowing me during that whole going crazy BBM era. So yeah, I did have a lot of fun
Mm-hmm.
during that era.
Why are you dodging this question, bro? Like, yeah, Bora dog. But let's go to Ndima.
The, no, the two things I want to talk about when it comes to BBM
Mm-hmm.
specifically. One is something that I found was funny that it was a feature that BBM had, which was, and I think you gents know where I'm going with this. This was whenever you listen to music on
Oh
BBM.
my
Remember when
goodness.
you would see what music you're listening to, which is cool, which is fine. Eh? You're listening to Liquid Deep or you're listening to whatever, but then here's where it gets hilarious. I remember multiple occasions where I would see O's with I would see O's statuses there, and I can see they're listening to something, but it would say like it it would say BBC Big Booty Latina or something, and I'm like, okay, homie's watching porn. BBC Latina Dundun, and I'm like, okay, homies don't realize that we can see that they're watching it wrong, but it's fine, yeah. But the other,
Oh,
yeah, but the other, in terms of my experience with BBM and how it like had an impact on my social standing or whatever at the time. I'll never forget this though, and shout out to this homie. If he's listening, he knows who he is, if he can remember. But there was a day where I randomly started getting like a bunch of, I can't remember what you would call them, but like invitations on BBM.
invitations, yeah.
Yeah, is that what they were called? And they were all girls, like one after the other, and like all at once. And I didn't understand what was going on. And these were like hot girls. Like I'm just a guy, bro. Like I'm just some regular ass dude, bro. I'm like, who are all these girls? And then I can't remember how I found, or I remember asking one of the girls, like, yo, where did you get my BBM pin? Like, how do you know who I am? And then the girl was like, nah, what's his name? Sent me he broadcasted your BBM pin, and I was like, okay, okay. So like the time when we had BBM, like that was like a step above Mixit for me. Like that's what really made BBM like a cut above at the time, because
Definitely.
it's like it yeah, like Raz said, it was like iPhone before iPhones came out. It
Mm-hmm.
was like a cut above Mixit, you know. It wasn't, and you had to, like you said, you had to have a BlackBerry, you know. And
You
you
had to,
know
bro.
but one thing I also really missed, though, just like as a side note, was like how you had to, when all phones had like that QWERTY function. So like you had to type, like you had to work hard to type out a
Yeah,
message, remember that? Like you couldn't just tap whatever letter, you had to literally type a combination to
yeah.
make like a message. But yeah, it was a really, really interesting time, man. Kind of miss it, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, just to piggyback off Ndima, I'll just yeah, like yeah, BBM with me, bro. I won't even lie. BBM for me changed everything, dog. In terms of like Ndima was saying, like it just made things so much easier. And the same homie he was talking
Mm,
about who used to broadcast like Oaks's BBM pins did the same thing for me, bro. And this was a guy who did this thing all the
shout out.
time. Shout out, bro. You put us, hey, dog. You put us onto a lot. We owe you, bro. We owe you. So, like, this dude would take my pin, right? Broadcast it as a status, and then you get a bunch of girls, bro, like bunch of girls inviting you, and you'd be like, "Yo, what the hell? Like, where did you guys get my pin?" And they'd be like, "Nah, so and so shared your pin," and they'd be like, "Oh, nah, shout out, homie." But and like you'd connect with girls from like Gauteng, girls from like out of town, and I think the other thing that BBM had, which was like a cut above, was the fact that you could make you could put pictures as your status, right? So that was like that was like a something that was really that was an upgrade, but it was like a next step to how social media developed. Because now with pictures, it made things a lot more fun and engaging in terms of talking to people and expressing yourself, because you'd put a certain picture, then you'd write a status along with that picture, sort of like a caption as to, oh, this is what I'm going through right now. You put up a meme, and I'm like, oh, this is what my life is right now. I put up a picture of a funny meme, and yeah, with BBM, it was like what Debo was saying, where you would really get to understand who a person is, because Mixer didn't really, it did have a that status type of feature like towards the end, but I think the whole picture
Mm,
thing really changed things for BBM, because now you really got to understand someone's personality, way of thinking, and how they just relate to the world and everything that's going on with them. So it made things a lot easier with that. And yeah, like I won't even lie, it really helped boost my popularity, bro, because I was always a witty guy, you know? So it made things easier in terms of like expressing myself in uh, a very cheeky, cocky way. And I was able to express myself in ways that I wouldn't necessarily be able to or have the confidence to if we were talking in person. So that was a nice thing about BBM and social media at the time. And then when we got to what you call this, when we got to Instagram, yeah, Instagram came up around 2012. That was another layer, in terms of the development of social
Mm,
media because now we're in varsity and there's Facebook. Twitter is also like very, very engaging. Twitter's another one we haven't really talked about, but like Twitter also came up around about the same time as BBM, and Twitter was engaging in a was more fun in a sense that you even had celebrities engaging on this app as if they're normal people. It was really fast and direct, and everything wasn't like in real time, so you could like talk to your favorite artist like in real time and they would respond. And then you had Instagram, which came up around 2012, so this is when we were in matric. you know that's what made things also like really exclusive in terms of owning an iPhone, because Instagram back then was only available on an iPhone, and then when we moved to varsity it was accessible to everyone. And then
mm,
what what did I want to say? So when we got to varsity, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram were popping, and it just helped us. It was just a rapid acceleration of this development of this thing. And there's a question I want to ask at the tip of my tongue, but I'm forgetting. So you had all of these platforms together, and they just they just became a part of who we are right now. And you've gotten to a point in time and society where there's really no hiding or getting away from the fact that you have to be on social media if you want to be present in the social realm, like not just only in the internet but just outside of the internet, like in real life. Like if you're not in on social media, you're basically on your own island, equivalent to being on your own island hiding somewhere under a rock, and you're isolated. So like, can you guys see yourselves like right now without social media, and like how would that look like?
mm. Interesting question. So, for me personally, I can 100% see myself without social media because, I mean, as I would hope we all know, it's not real life. It's a means of accessing and connecting with abanye band with other people. But I can 100% do without it. For me, it played its role in my life. When we were younger, we were in high school, varsity. As you said, it was this tool to meet girls. It was a tool to connect with your friends. But in reality, you get to a point where you're like I said, this isn't real life. You could still, you can now disconnect from it because it's played its role in your life. Now you have other priorities, you have other things that you have to invest your energy in more. But yeah, I can totally do without it. But I think with a lot of people, they can struggle to disconnect from it because of how reliant on it or even dependent on it they can be. And it can even be like a drug, not to get dark with it, but like because you can become so like dependent on using it all the time. But for me personally, I can totally do without it.
And just my follow-up question to that is that how does that look like life without social media in this day and age for you?
Yeah, so I guess it can be a bit weird at first, like especially if you come out of like if well, like maybe if you tell yourself that you're taking a long break from social media for the first time. It can be strange because of how accustomed to it you are, but it just feels normal, man. It feels like and it goes back to my earlier point when I said as millennials we remember what it was like before social media. So if you can tap into that memory of like you've done this before, you spent the first several years of your life without it, you learned how to socialize without it, you learned how to have fun without it, you can still do it again. So it can be difficult, but if you remember that you've done this before, then it really won't be that difficult, I think.
How about you, Raz?
Now, I was laughing when you said that person's going to be in an island because uh,
Yeah.
I've been laughing because hey, okay,
Where is this going?
the thing is, um,
Let it go where it goes, bro.
because now look, okay, like Utandira saying, we did grow up without social media, so we did live a life not necessarily having to use Mixit and so forth. So you can tap into that if you want, even now. However, I think my
Yeah.
two personally, my personal two things that would stand out why I'd still cling on to social media is number one, women, and number two would be what's this? Just social presence in terms of the professional space. So
Mm-hmm.
woman because I've noticed that hey, you know what social media has done is it's given us access to women
Mm,
across the world.
Talk about
Back
it.
then you'd probably be subjected just to maybe girls in your neighborhood or province or whatever the case is. But with social media, like Wox was saying, you could be in the Eastern Cape and speak to a girl in Gauteng. And now that it's expanding and getting more sophisticated, you can speak to someone in Miami and you in South Africa. So definitely for the woman, because I'm still searching, I definitely want to cling on to that. But in terms of, like I said, professional presence,
mm,
I'm noticing that look, most institutions, it could be schools, varsities, organizations, jobs, are wanting to establish or have established a social presence. And it seems as though they are trying to move in that social media network space. I mean, most companies have pages now. They have Facebook, Instagram, all those type of pages. Even organizations that we wouldn't think would have such type of networks or structures do have it now. So even political parties have social media pages and so forth. So I think, yeah, I wouldn't want to get left behind, especially in the professional side. So yeah, for those two things, I think I'd cling on to social media, and I'd have to.
Very true. And I think for me, it's a bit of both, right? Because I'm only on social media like right now in terms of just being very, very active because of the podcast, because I mainly handle like the marketing side of it in terms of handling our Instagram account. So in terms of that, like I'm on it on almost every day, you know, in terms of like managing our social media account, that is, I'm on it every day, you know, just either making updates on the clips that we do or just announcing that there will be another episode. But I can't definitely live without social media, you know. I do take social media breaks from, yeah, from time to time, and just to have that digital detox, you know, social media detox, just re-cleanse your mind, refresh, and just live without social media for a while, then come back with another perspective. And I wouldn't necessarily drop it forever, right? Because of the necessity. It's become a necessity, like in this day and age, to be on social media, you know, because we are social creatures at the end of the day, and it appeals to our most primal need of not wanting to be alone and being part of a group and a community. So I would keep it for that respect. And yeah, life before social media, I mean, I was only 14, 15, you know, before then, before like Facebook. And I mean, I deleted my Facebook account. So I was like, you pick and choose which kind of, yeah, I think it gets to a point where you decide which social platforms are really for you and how you will move forward in terms of engaging with people and the types of relationships you bring, because there's such a wide variety of uses that you could use social media for, whether it is for entertainment purposes, business purposes, or just on a personal note, or just on a personal for a personal perspective. And yeah, like for me, dude, like Raz was saying, like I'm also on social media because of women, bro, because it's like I like seeing eye candy. I like seeing pretty things, and
I
it's
mean, I
like
mean, we all
they are,
do.
yeah, like they're on social media, so I'm on social media, and that's just the way that's just the way it is, right? And speaking in terms of like socializing on social media, right? And yeah, speaking in terms of like socializing on social media and dating, how has that dynamic been influenced by social media, because it's rare nowadays that you walk up to a woman, approach her, and then you guys interact and form that kind of friendship slash relationship in the initial stages purely on an in-person level. And then you move on to becoming more and more intimate with this person, you know? How has social media influenced the way you interact with women and just picking the kind of woman you like to date, and which which social media platforms would you say are more aligned to that aspect of interaction in terms of yeah, in terms of socializing. And then we'll also talk about like the professional side of social media like LinkedIn, but I just like to stay on the more friendship, social, and dating aspect of it. So which ones would you yeah, how is social media like affected relationships and the dating scene from your perspective, Nira?
Mm. So yeah, I mean, there are different ones for dating. I would qualify Insta as a dating app
Definitely.
technically. It's become
Definitely.
that. Yeah, but I don't use Tinder. And Tinder isn't a way to find a partner. It's just a hookup site, practically speaking. But Insta for me is definitely the one. But the way I use it kind of as a tool. I use it as the middleman. So I don't rely on it to meet women, but I don't know if I'm giving this away, but I use it as like Google. Because if I meet a girl or meet a woman and I want to do a little bit of a background check, I go to
Yellow
Instagram.
pages. Yellow
I
pages. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the yellow
yeah,
pages. I
yeah.
go there
Yellow
and there are
pages.
certain yeah, and this is where I'm not gonna go specific, but there are certain things that I look out for. There are certain things that I look out for on Insta. If your Insta page is full of certain things, we all know what I'm talking about. I would like to hope.
Yep.
But yeah, there are there are certain boxes that I'm gonna tick. If I tick too many boxes, then I'm gonna disqualify you because it's like, or at least I get to decide how seriously I'm going to take you. But yeah,
Mm,
that's how I use Insta in general. But I do know that a lot of people also make use of Tinder, and I don't know what other dating apps they are. But yeah, it's
OnlyFans.
for
No,
me
I'm kidding,
personally.
guys.
Oh hell no. But yeah, like Insta is like for me, it's a tool. It's a middleman where I'm like, okay, I don't use it to meet women, but I use it to kind of connect with the women I've already met, you know, or
Mm.
women that I've spotted and I'd like to, and I use it to be like, hey, whatever the line's gonna be.
I feel like Instagram is always like the first point of reference, bro. Like I'll piggyback off what you said. Instagram, yeah, for me as well, is always like the first point of reference because, and it also depends on the type of woman you're meeting, right?
Mm,
Because with some women you can go straight up and be like, "Hey, what's your number?" But with others, you have to play that long game in terms of, "Hey, what's your Instagram handle?" And then you guys connect on Instagram, and then
mm,
you go on the DMs, and then you start talking, right? So for me, definitely Instagram is the first point of contact. I mean, reference where you just get an overall impression as to, okay, how does she look visually, right? But also, what type of content does she post? What type of content does she post? And do you guys have any mutual friends? Like, how large is the following and all that? That all plays into like your attraction to her. And then once you start talking to a woman, that's when you start building that bond and relationship in terms of being romantic with this woman or keeping it strictly platonic. So Instagram definitely. And then I know some people are big on Facebook when it comes to that. Others use Twitter. Other people are on Tinder. There's so many dating apps, bro. I'm trying to think of another one. There's another one that I think it's half or something. Like it starts with an H. I'm not too sure. I could be way off. But how about you, Raz? Like, how does social media play into the whole social and dating aspect when it comes to, yeah, just the dynamics, bro, of socializing and interacting?
Yo, dude. Yo, I don't know. On my side, dude, I only see beautiful women on Instagram. I struggle, bro, with trying to find. I swear my life, bro. I swear my life, bro.
Sonke, bro.
I really struggle, dog. Like every time I go on the gram, I think I mentioned this to you guys. Like I struggle, like when I go on Instagram and really try to check what's going on. I just see beautiful women, you know. I think though for me, when it comes to dating, I prefer looking more at Facebook. I think what I've noticed is people present themselves differently on Instagram to what they present themselves on Facebook. So you'd find the same individual being a certain person on Instagram, and then find them posting certain type of content or pictures on Facebook. So I usually try to check on Facebook because that's where I don't want to say it's more of a village, but you know, Facebook, there's the standards that are upheld at Instagram sometimes are not so strong. You know, people still just generally post any form of content and it's not looked at in any type of way. So yeah, people are more free there, man. You see people being themselves, and like I said, that shows because they don't, in some cases, don't show the same content they present on Facebook and on Instagram. So look, I
Mm.
haven't tried Tinder. I've heard about it a lot. I know people have done it. I don't know. For me, I feel like apps like that, like what Dadiro was saying, are like hookup apps where it's like, okay, let's hook up to have a date, blah blah. I feel like, yeah, I just feel like I know, knowing myself, I'm probably gonna ask that person, let's date or what, and I prefer working towards that. I prefer working.
Man says let's date.
Yeah, I know that.
I think what Raz is trying to say in terms of Tinder and hookup culture is like it's too transactional, you know? It's like we're talking about exchanging money or bread when we're talking about romance. It takes away that thrill of the chase and also just that
Yeah.
part of the process where you really get to know someone and build this
Mm,
connection organically. So it takes away that, and it does. I think it really has influenced like our generation and the times we live in terms of hookup culture and this microwave dating scene where people just meet maybe online or in person, and then they just jump straight into second and third base, and then it's over within 2-3 months because there are some clear differences on on a very foundational level that you guys don't match in, ironically match Tinder, get it anyway.
mm.
you know so it takes away that aspect, and then it takes away that aspect, and it makes dating cheap in a sense, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just talk about me for now. Like, yeah, to me it's mainly Instagram, bro. I'm just on Instagram when it comes to women. Like, I used to be on Twitter, but Twitter just got a bit too much for me. There was a time Twitter was really, really fun back in the day, but I think once all the real social issues of the world got really, really, really serious, Twitter became like a less fun place to be and just too serious, and it became a bit too toxic for me. So I moved from like Twitter to Tumblr, which I still have my Tumblr account, but Instagram mainly, bro, because for me, yeah, Instagram for me, bro, because yeah, I'm a visual type of person, bro. I like to see beauty, I want to see how
Damn.
you look. I don't care if it's your best self, and you like filter out, and you use like a few filters here and there. If you look good, baby, get at me. So
You.
that's why I use IG, you
Mm,
know? That's why I use IG, but I'm just saying, like, IG is usually the main point, look at someone's stories, then you start talking to them. But it's not like the main tool. I'm still like old school in terms of wanting to approach someone and meet them and connect with them and vibe and just have a pure organic vibe. But you can't avoid the fact that that's not always possible anymore. So you have to choose your preferred platform. And just to stay on the social fun side of social, okay, yeah, just to stay on the social fun side of social media before I move on to like a more serious topic when it comes to social media is that like, yeah, so you guys are both quote unquote ladies men, so what are some strategies, bro? Like, would you find that have worked for you in terms of, increasing your chances of getting women, or like finding your type of woman? And yeah, what are some of the things that you found have worked or haven't worked, and what would you advise in terms of the do's and don'ts, in terms of, yeah, social media and dating etiquette?
Hmm. Yeah, so I don't know about being a ladies man, but
Nigga.
like you said, nah, I don't claim that.
Niggas
But
being humble though.
what, yeah, nah. So here's what I know. Here's what I know. Like what you mentioned about the cold approach, like
Mm,
approaching a woman, I think it's a I don't know if it's a dying art, but obviously because of how popular social media is, I think people
mm,
rely more on, DMing or whatever. But I think what works for me is just like make sure that you feel confident enough to just strike up a conversation, and I think the key with striking up the conversation is to don't lead with thirst, you know just make it organic, make it genuine, just like start
mm.
the conversation just as a chat, and if you really want to try and get the person's attention or get the woman's attention, please don't compliment her on her looks. She hears that 10,000 times a day. Compliment her on something that she might have worked hard for, or something that she put effort
Mm.
into. So like whether it's her hair or like something she's wearing, but like not in like a creepy way where it's like, yo girl, that thing hugs you, like, don't, you know like I like the way it hugs your thighs, girl. Like, no, like just
Nah, bro.
just like compliment her on, yeah, compliment her on something that she put effort into, and but I just think the confidence thing is key. And when it comes to confidence, I think it's something that you have to work for, and
Mm.
in order to create it within yourself. So if you're someone who didn't grow up that confident, then you have to cultivate it. So if that comes in the form of educating yourself more or exercising, all of those things play a part in you feeling good about yourself. And if
And
you
just
feel good
being in the
about yourself,
field,
then
bro.
yeah, if you feel good about yourself, then Ikwababa will not come for you that often. And
Mm.
Ikwababa is another thing where it's like sometimes you have to just kind of bypass it, because we all feel nervous when you have to talk to a beautiful woman. Like it's not easy,
Yeah,
especially if you don't know her. But sometimes you have to sort of just say, excuse my French, but like fuck it, like just try,
exactly.
and but the dark side is that people say like the worst she could say is no, and that's not the worst she can say. To be realistic, she
Bro.
could say like way worse. Like she could be like, there's a lot she could say, but the point is, don't worry about, you know, don't worry about the negative responses that you're going to get. Singamachi, as men, you take L's when it comes to talking to women.
Yeah,
It's inevitable, but the key is like try again. But as long as you remember, don't be creepy. Don't compliment her and tell her how beautiful she is out of nowhere, because she hears that all the time. Try and be original, as a regular ass nigga. But yeah,
yeah.
I think we should just do the cold approach more, because DMing is too easy. It's too easy because there's a lot. You don't have to worry about being nervous. You're not going to
Yeah.
be nervous because she's not in front of you. You know, it's too easy. So just try the cold approach more often, and I think it might work out better for you.
I mean, the worst she could say, bro. The worst thing she could say is
Yo,
like leave your message on red, bro. That's the worst.
yo,
That's the worst, bro.
yo.
Knowing you were spitting game and then the message got opened and then there was like no response, bro.
Yeah.
Like until you
Yo,
get
no, no,
that,
no.
my
That's not
nigga,
even the
keep going.
worst. That's not even the worst. She could go ew.
Oh
Ew
my
is the
god.
worst. And I I've witnessed this happen to people, bro. Like I've been like, I've women actually do it. That they, if your approach is all messed up, bro, like she can literally be like, ew, what do you mean? Like there's
Yeah,
worse she can
bro.
say than no.
Or
But the point is just like, don't, yeah.
she could say you, or she could say, eh?
Yo, I have to repeat yourself now. Now you have to repeat your line again.
Yeah, you see
Yo,
that?
yo,
Eh?
yo, yo.
It's like, okay, nigga, what are you saying?
Yo.
And I'm giving you a chance to
Just say
like,
never mind.
I'm giving you a chance to like redeem yourself.
Nah, just walk away, bro. If you have to repeat yourself,
Hey,
mm-mm.
broski, how about you, Raz? Like, what are some strategies that you find have worked for you in terms of like getting women on Instagram, social media, and like, yeah, what could you advise the next man, bro?
No cap, dude. I think I'm actually not the best person to ask that because I think I'm more old school when it comes to approaching women. So I don't really get
Mm,
much women off social media. Um, I think when it comes to approaching women, speaking to women, I prefer having face-to-face discussions. I'm not saying you can't do that via social media, but I don't know. It just feels more real for me if I meet you and we just blow up from there. So I haven't won much on social media, to be quite honest with
it's not your thing, eh?
you.
It's
Nah,
not your thing. You've got more L's than dubs, you can say.
I haven't even tried, bro.
Mm,
Cap. I'm calling cap on that. But
Nah,
anyway,
nah,
bro.
nah, nah.
I will
So let me just correct that.
this man's DMs are full, bro.
Nah, not
Man's
full.
DMs are
even.
full
That
of
that
cap.
that's the thing,
He's
dude.
he's got he's got DMs that he's not responding to. This guy.
Nah,
Bruh.
nah,
Bruh.
bro, nah,
Sunshine.
A
He's
backlog.
we know him as Raz, but he's sunshine on social media, if you know what I mean.
nah. But just no cap. I don't do that. Like approaching on social media, no cap. If I approach a woman on social media, it's probably
Mm,
a woman I know from or knew from somewhere. Then, you know, it's rare where I just like greet a woman that I don't know at all. It's very rare. It's very
okay, like for me, just to piggyback on what Ndima says, for me, like just be as natural as you can, you know, because you don't want to create this impression that you have a certain persona on social media versus who you are in real life in the flesh. So try by all means to be as authentic as you can, and if you're gonna be messaging someone on on the DM, that's if you know her or you don't know her, you know, just look at what you're saying, you know, type what you're saying and then just read it out loud. And before you press that send button, just think to yourself, is this something that would catch someone's attention the way I would like it to? Or is this total BS what I'm writing right now, you know? And just give yourself that space, you know? And like Dima said, don't be commenting on the most obvious, you know? If she's outside, like if she's outside taking a selfie, you know, and it's a full body selfie, like you could just comment on something like that's not even remotely about her. Like you notice a picture on her wall and you just ask about the picture, you know, just ask about it in a very funny, witty way. And just also understand boundaries, you know. You don't want to be a creep, dog, you know. You don't want to be a
Mm.
creep, and because people screenshot these days, things go viral, you know. You can easily be a
Mm, mm,
meme.
mm.
You could easily be a meme and that's your
Yo,
reputation gone down the drain. So be be
dusted.
very bro, be very
rare.
conscious of what you're saying, you know. Be very conscious of what you're saying and just try to be as authentic as you can be, and yeah, for the most part things will be pretty sweet, and you'll find that in most cases some women really do give leeway, in terms of making it easy for you to talk. Like a girl will post a status, that is engaging, that is, yeah, that is engaging, which is a great way for you to talk to her, So just look out for those type of things, and yeah, for the most part, if you're a real one, she'll give you that type of time, or that time of day. And just to move on, but staying on social media, like how much does the whole validation part of social media play into people in terms of the amount of likes they get and followers they have? How does all of that, the validation part of social media, how does it how does it affect people today? And in terms of tying it to their self-esteem, like what are some of what are some of the cons when it comes to that? Because you find that some people like really, really base and tie their entire value on who they are in social media. And if they receive any feedback that doesn't really correspond to who they think they are on social media, it messes up everything about them, If you don't get a particular number of likes on a
Mm,
particular post, someone feels down and it affects their mental health. So, how do you think that all ties in and affects people in this day and age that we live in?
mm. Yeah, yo, I wonder when it comes to that question in particular, social media has really it's made attention, it's turned attention into currency. Like people can't live without that validation anymore.
Mm,
Like the likes, the comments, like it makes people feel like it validates people based on their appearances and based on their lifestyles. And I think just to touch on the negative side of it, like it's really created this like attention craving that people have. And I've even experienced this, and I'm not even like that active on social media. I don't even post anymore. I haven't posted anything on Instagram for years now. But I remember whenever I would not get the response that I wanted, whether it was a post or something, when I didn't get the response that I expected or the likes that I expected, there would be like a literal mood shift. Like you'd
Mm,
feel
mm,
let down or disappointed or down, and you're like, but then when you think about it, you're like, why do I care? Like, why is this that important
mm,
to me? And I think that's the negative side of it, where it's like it creates this like this expectation, this dependence on it. And it's like I said earlier, when it's like social media has kind of become a drug, where it's like you become hooked on the validation and the attention, you know. And but then to touch on another negative aspect of it, I think something else that's a big problem with social media is it's given people too much access. We have too much access to each other, and I think that's a negative
mm,
aspect
mm,
when it
mm,
comes to relationships in particular. If your girlfriend or your wife or whatever has Instagram and she has hundreds if not thousands of followers, like never before, now she has access, or other people have access to her. So now you have other men who can DM her. You have, and these could be wealthy men, these could be good looking men, these could be regular men. But the problem is, the point is, we've never had a point in history where if you're in a relationship, suddenly now people from all over the world, regardless of who you are, people have access to your partner. Someone can message your girlfriend like out of nowhere, and now if your girlfriend is someone who is loyal and has integrity, she won't respond to the texts. But we live in the modern age, and like I said, the attention has become currency, and we've kind of
mm,
become addicted to that attention. So it's like it's a risky thing of now, like, can you trust your partner to not respond to DMs? And it's a whole new threat to relationships. So
mm.
yeah, it's a very prickly thing.
Very prickly and very tricky indeed, because with what you're saying is that depending on the type of partner you have and based on her own self-esteem, you know, how she manages attention will play a huge role into your relationship, because if she's seeking validation outside of what you guys have as a couple, for her own selfish purposes. She'll be entertaining other guys on social media. She'll be responding to other DMs, because there's a void where she feels like needs to be filled through this validation from other men. So yeah, it's a very dark rabbit hole that you can get into when it comes to that. And how about you, Raz? Like, how do you think the social media and just the validation side of social media, how do you think that has affected people today in terms of like using social media as a validation for their self-esteem?
So, like Undima was saying, in terms of social media presence, I think we need to look at things such as peer pressure. So, peer pressure has always been there, even prior to the social media era. Socially, there's a way society would say you need to be a 20, 30, 40, 50, and so forth. So, I think what social media did is what it does with most things, it just brings them more into light and brings them more visually so people can see it and it's more accessible. Look, I don't know if because yes, there are some people who go about using getting attention in the wrong ways on social media, and people doing the wrong things. I mean, some people kill themselves. People do suicide because they can't get certain clothes or travel certain countries to look good on the gram. It's actually that serious. So yes, there is definitely an attention span problem in terms of social media. However, on the flip side, I do think that if people use it in the right way, like I said earlier on, social media essentially can work wonders in anyone's life.
And like, how do we teach our kids in terms of how to be more mindful when using social media? Because when it comes to the validation aspect of social media, it's designed it's designed to be as addictive as crack, like crack cocaine, or as addictive as like gambling. Because when it comes to social media and gambling, the engineering and mechanics of the 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 mechanics of how it gets you hooked, it's basically the same system that they use, right? And it's that mechanism, right, that gets people hooked and addicted to the likes, the attention that they get, the notification. And you find now that people really can't live without that because they've tied it to their self-esteem. It's part of who they are. It's part of their ego, their self-identity, how they just see themselves in relation to everyone else. And there's a real dark side to it because, like you mentioned, it does affect people's mental health in very grave ways. Like, there are multiple cases where people have committed suicide because of social media, due to the lack of validation they received, or the overwhelming validation they received, which comes with overstimulation and toxic comments, and that all plays a role as to how people how it affects people and their mental health. So like, how do we teach our kids, especially now that you have Gen Zs whose entire life, has been not necessarily determined but indirectly shaped and formed by social media? Like, how do we teach our kids to be more mindful, and also teach them to be less dependent on social media for validation and their confidence, and try to make them as holistic and wholesome people amongst the times we live in, with this big machine called the social media network platform. Like, what do you think about that, Indira?
So, me personally, I don't think kids should be anywhere near social media until they're like, realistically, but maybe until you're like 14 or 15, because especially when you address the fact that it's addictive. There are other substances out there that are also addictive, but we don't allow children access to them until they're a certain age, right? Like cigarettes, alcohol, etc. So why do we allow social media access while also understanding its negative effects? if social media has such a negative effect on adults, what does it do to children, you know? So this is why I'm like, I don't understand why we
Mm.
allow children access to social media up until a certain age. And I understand that realistically it's deeply a part of society now. And you know, your kids will also have friends or peers or classmates who have social media, you know. But I think it's up to the parents to actually sit their kids down and get them to understand, but also, like, you're the parent, don't allow your child access to social media up until a certain age, because there are already studies that have shown that it has negative effects on their attention spans, which children need. You know, you need to be able to zone in on something and concentrate at school, for example. It can even have really deep effects on their self-esteem, you know. And children aren't mature enough or even resilient enough to be able to deal with those types of things. It can really negatively affect them, maybe even permanently. So personally, yeah, I don't think kids should be anywhere near social media. And I know that obviously a lot of kids have that access. Their parents allow them, even toddlers. Like, a lot of parents even raise their
Mm.
children with cocoa melon and all that stuff, even though it's not social media. But it's like digital media
It's
is not for
YouTube, yeah.
kids. Yeah, it's digital media is not for kids, man. I don't think children should be anywhere near that stuff. Be a child, go play outside, go scrape your knee, go play with mud, and you know, all sorts of things that we did growing up, you know. Because like I said, we are
Mm.
that last generation that actually had that childhood completely. And then social media only came into our lives when we were a lot older, like 14, 15, maybe even 16 or later. But yeah, I just really don't think that kids should have access at all. At least maybe until they're like, what, 15 or 16.
I see. And so, like, Raz, what do you like? What would you tell your 15-year-old self about social media today? You know, if you were a 15-year-old who was about to open up an Instagram account, for example, what advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
Dude, and you aware that I took long to open up an Instagram account. So why? Because I heard about the. So this is the thing with social media. Example, Instagram. So when I initially heard about it from people, peers, already I could see how it's changing people without me having the app. So I could see people are living a certain life, doing certain things even at establishments, and they'd say they're doing it for the gram. And I'd be like, oh, okay, is this how you live on the gram? And so, like, yes, this is the movement. These are the type of things you do. And I was like, yo, you know what? If that's what you have to do to be in the gram, look, I'd rather stay away. And I stayed away for years. So definitely a 15-year-old, with me at 15, I'd still probably tell myself no. Yeah, I don't think I'd change. Still say
Mm.
no.
Which is tricky because with me, Instagram, I got Instagram like the first time I got Instagram, I was 21, you know? So at that stage in my life, I was mature, right? But I remember how hyped I was, you know, the first
Mm,
time I got
mm,
Instagram and started making posts and just seeing the validation I got, you know? So it was a new thing, very exciting. And I just had a lot to share at the time. You know, I'm in varsity, I'm at the gym, I'm sharing life about life on campus. And so if I were to go back in time at 15 and download Instagram today, I think the very first thing I'd say is, yeah, I'd limit my access, you know. I'd want someone to restrict my access as a 15-year-old on social media because that's a very fragile time in your life where what people say about you is very it impacts you a lot more than what someone would say to me at this age. So I tell them not to be on it all the time, but also understand like those likes aren't real, you know? The likes aren't real. The likes don't define who you are. Like the number of likes you get doesn't shouldn't define your confidence and your self-esteem as much as that is a very hard thing to do, you know? You need to find a way to affirm a 15-year-old who is like self-conscious and worried about making friends and being popular to understand that they are enough as their own person, you know, first and foremost. And social media is just a tool to use to it's just a tool to use to network and find your community. So I would really like get that into their heads as to making that determination that approval from others, especially strangers online, is a very dangerous thing. So your main thing as a 15-year-old is, as much as you're documenting your life and your stories, just keep in mind that how people react to your story in terms of them liking it or not shouldn't stop you from posting that, because now you're self-conscious because you're thinking, no, I shouldn't post this because people won't like it, or people will think I'm a certain way, or people think I'm a loser. Like, have fun, bro. Like, and just be aware of who's following you as well. So whatever you're posting, share it to those people you think will like it, and it doesn't matter who doesn't like it, bro, because at the end of the day, this is something you feel that you wanted to share with the world. So that's what I would advise, like, my 15-year-old self on social media, in terms of social media and Instagram. Like, what do you think, Dima? How would you advise your 15-year-old self?
So realistically, I would advise my 15-year-old self to stay away, honestly. Stay away completely. And I say this because of the points that you raised just now, regarding how social media and its validation can shape your self-esteem when you're at that age. It can make or break you. If you're not like one of the popular kids, then it can really shape how you feel about yourself, and which isn't fair, because it doesn't social media isn't real life. It's not a reflection of who you really are. But the point is, when you're at that age, it can, because you're still young, you don't have a sense of identity yet. So when you're putting yourself out there like that, and then you start receiving negative feedback or criticism, or maybe if you get a lot of validation, but then the next day you don't get it, and then it's you'll start to internalize it and be like, no, what's wrong with me? Like, why are people not giving me the same love that I was getting before? So, and also you raised an important point about security. It's like, kids are vulnerable on social media, because there are a lot of like dodgy characters on the net who are actually deliberately targeting young people or even children. Even predators. There are predators online who masquerade as kids, and they do that to get access to other children, to actual children. So that's another reason why I'm like, I genuinely just don't think children should be on there. But for 15-year-old me, just stay away. At least until you're like a bit older, or at least until you're like 17 or 18, and then you should be a bit more well equipped to deal with everything that comes with social media.
Yeah, very well. And do you guys think we still have like some sort of autonomy or agency over what we consume on social media? Or are the algorithms like really, really like running us now? Like, what do you think of that?
Mm.
Yo, bro, I don't know about you guys, but hey, I feel like we're not in control, man. Like
Mm,
most times when I go on social media, it could be TikTok, Gram, uh, Twitter. Maybe Twitter still tries a bit, but Facebook and so forth. Bro, like I said, I just see beautiful women, man. Honestly, bro. And look, I don't have a problem with beautiful women. I don't have a problem with beautiful women. I love beautiful women. But like, there's times where you want to see like other things, like maybe, what's happening in the country, what's happening in other countries, and you just see, all you see when you scroll down is this beautiful woman. And I feel like it's just driving a certain narrative, because that's what I see when I look at, when other kids tell me they're looking at their profiles. They're like, yeah, man, I'm struggling. I just see a lot of beautiful women. I don't know, man. Look, I don't know if the algorithm is doing the right thing, because, I'm trying
yeah,
not to look at that, but it keeps taking me back there. So I don't know.
it's crazy, bro, because I have that issue with Instagram, dog. Like, there was a a moment, like a real period where whenever I would go to the explore page, bro, the f- all I'd see were just women with big breasts. Like, that's all I saw, right? And Dog, like that's literally all I saw all day, every day. You try to refresh, it's a different batch of women with big titties, dog. So it's like, yo, what the
And
hell
when
is
you
going on
refresh,
now, bro?
Yeah.
You want to refresh, bro. And then when you explore, when you go into these Hans profiles, it's like, yo, this one's an OnlyFans model. This one's an
Yeah.
OnlyFans model. This one's an OnlyFans
Yeah.
model. What the? And then it's like, okay, am I being lured to join OnlyFans now? Because it's like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah, bro.
Th-
So
There's
it's like, yo, what
there's
the hell is going on?
there's even a trend that I've noticed on my feed. For some reason, Insta keeps feeding
Yeah,
me
yeah,
videos of
yeah.
Uncle Waffles. Like, why is Uncle Waffles on my feed?
Dog,
Oh
I don't
my
search
god.
for her. I swear to God, I don't search for Uncle Waffles, gents. But she's always just there. She pops up, and I'm like, why is the algorithm deliberately feeding me thirst? It's like, no, like Raz
Feed
said,
you waffles, man.
nah, 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 nah.
beep
No,
beep, cuckoo.
what the But yeah, no, it's like Raz
Beep
said. It's like,
beep, doctor.
why isn't the feed feeding us like more useful content? Because sometimes you try to cultivate your feed by liking and commenting on useful content that you like or whatever. That's not like
Mm, mm,
thirst trap or whatever. But sometimes it doesn't work. It's like still you find your feed is full of like
mm,
big
mm.
booties and Insta models and Uncle Waffles, and it's like I didn't ask for this. It's tempting, but I didn't ask for this. So I
Bro,
don't know, chance. I don't know.
it's like same with this thing, the guy Uncle Waffles there. It's the same thing with me, dude. Like this one time, there's this women's NBA player, Angel Reese, ne? I followed her, and I was like, I don't
Yeah.
really fuck with this son's content like that, so I unfollowed. Dude, I go to my explore page, Angel Reese, everything, bro. Angel Reese this, Angel Reese that. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I'm
Mm,
not interested in this hunt. Why are you forcing me to like this hunt's
mm.
content, bro? You know?
Yeah, they hook you with
So
thirst, bro.
so that's why I asked this question is like,
Mm,
are we still in control of this thing? Because there's another thing, like when you go onto Instagram, right, and it's just your feed is either like beautiful women, celebrities, and it's like I want to see more content from like the people I came up with, the people I follow. Like the majority of the people I follow are people I came
mm,
up with. Like,
Yes.
what are they doing
yeah.
Yes.
all the time? Like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't want to see. I don't
Mm,
want to see. I don't want to see this commercialized thing all the time, dude. Like, how do I nitpick and for it to
mm,
only be
mm,
for it to, for Instagram to only show like the people I came up with, like the organic posts, because that was the appeal from the start.
mm,
Even with
mm,
Facebook still kind of maintains that organic part of it, but with other platforms, you find that everything else is commercialized, and the algorithm is doing
mm,
yeah, is
mm,
making those
mm,
determinations for
mm,
you. And that really does affect how you even see the world because now you can't even trust your own perspective 100% at times because how much of what you're thinking is from your own independent thought and what side of it has been fed to you by the algorithm. And it plays into this
Mm,
whole matrix thing
mm,
as to,
mm,
okay,
mm.
who really is in control here?
yeah.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, I think the trick is just that that's the problem. It's not supposed to help us. We try to use social media to help us, but the algorithm doesn't want that. It wants to feed you thirst and all these useless things, just to
Mm,
keep you
mm,
scrolling.
mm,
It's not trying to help you
Mm,
or feed you information that's gonna help you self improve or even just keep you
mm.
connected with the people like as you said that you came up with. It's built to keep you hooked on these not so useful, even self-destructive things.
mm, mm, mm.
And also, just to wrap it up, guys, we're not taking shots at Uncle Waffles. We all love Uncle Waffles. It's just like we don't want to see her all the time, bro.
Nah, I never asked for her,
Like
bro.
this is
But
not a
she's
shot at
there,
Uncle Waffles, bro.
It's like we
You
get it,
know,
she's hot, but like why is she on my feed all the time? Like,
you
you
know.
know. Yeah.
Damn, bro. Can I see Beyonce once in a while? No disrespect to Hove.
Ah, ah, ah.
Like just because what you're saying, we want some variety, dog.
No, man. Nah. We need more
But
self-help.
yeah,
Going on trial, man. What?
Yeah.
Bro, we want to see some other things, you know?
Yeah, send us content. Send us content that teaches us how to do our taxes, bro. We don't want to be seeing Uncle Waffles all the time. Like something more useful, man. Come on.
Shout out to Uncle Waffles,
Necessary.
bro. But moving on, Jen. So one of the most significant, I think significant even fails to describe what I'm about to say, but one of the most significant developments, recently was the press conference. Sorry, yo, did the press conference? What the hell? But like one of the most significant developments, in recent week was the press conference held by the KwaZulu Natal Police Commissioner, General Mkhwanazi, and in what can only be described as an extraordinary public statement, I say explosive because that's what it was. It was fireworks. General Mkhwanazi openly accused the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, of interfering in operational matters and protecting corrupt elements within the South African police services. And what made this moment so striking wasn't just the content of the allegations, but the fact that they came from a senior police official speaking publicly and on that record and just telling you how deeply connected and deeply involved some ministers, senior police officials, people like also like members of our judicial system are engaged in this thing. And these kind of allegations cut right into the heart of trust in our state institutions, and they raise serious questions about political influence over the police and what this means for accountability, both within the government and the law enforcement. So let's get into it, guys. We had the president last night speaking about these allegations, the seriousness of these allegations, and the way forward. But I'd just like to start on your first impression, right, of what the general said about these grave allegations towards Usenzo Mchunu and the associates who are involved. Like, what was your first impression of that? I'll start with you, Sunshine.
Uh, yeah, shocking. Obviously, very shocking. Those were serious allegations. Um, but that's the thing with South Africa. This country, there's just so many secrets. There's just so many things in this country that I feel like the higher ups know, and it's just never disclosed to the general public. Um, I mean, if you look at how presidents are chosen, as we people sit here and we try to vote that president in, but in most cases, there's a whole hierarchy and chronological system of who's going to be the next president. It's not like the people in the high ups are stressing about who's going to be the next president. They know who's going to be next. We the only ones on the ground trying to figure out who might be the next president. So once again, this is a play situation where one of the higher ups decided to reveal certain things that are happening within the system with the higher ups. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Okay. If you look at it in the sense of obviously he revealed information that the public would not have got if he didn't, that is a good thing because if there is corruption and the high ups are taking place in it when they should be protecting us, that should obviously be disclosed to the public. The protocol, however, like I said to you Walks earlier on, is that in South Africa we have a constitution and we have rules in law which are placed as to how things must be done, even if you want to reveal something or someone did something bad to you. Was the protocol he followed necessarily 100% correct? I'm not sure. Why? Because the situations like this, if you go back to the looting and what happened when President Zuma was arrested, South Africa suffered tremendously during that period, and we still haven't recovered from the economic loss we made then. And it was a similar case where certain things were revealed, and Zuma was arrested, and the country went wild because of how it happened. So once again, situations like this shouldn't process in the same time should be followed, because if things are not done in process, it may lead the country into unrest. And I really wouldn't want another situation where it's looting, it's lockdowns, and all of that, because already as a country, we're really struggling, man. So, yeah, man. That was my immediate take on it.
What did you think of the allegations when Andima, like the nature of the allegations that General Mkhwanazi brought forward,
Mm,
saying that Usezo Mkhunu is implicated along with there's like Ukat Matlala and Ubrown. I forget his surname. But like, what did you make of the nature of the allegations that General brought forward?
The allegations that Mkhunu was trying to disband the political killings task team. So
Yes, yes, yes. Just your first impression as to, yeah, when you heard
yeah,
this, what went through your mind?
none of this shocks me, man. Like guys, none of this shocks us. It's just it's shocking because it's happening, but it's so common in this country
Mm,
that it's like, hey guys, it's just another reminder that of just how deeply endemic the corruption in this country is. But my impression first off of the president's address was it was just more of the same. He spent a mere 11 minutes addressing us, and it it didn't feel like we're gonna actually have any immediate solutions to this issue, because when it comes to our government, there's always such a long tedious process to trying to address and trying to sort of try to get people who are guilty of all of allegations of corruptions to face justice. We came from the Zondo Commission, which took years when it should have was projected to take 6 months. So it's like it to me, it's just like another indication or a reminder that we're dealing with a lot of really, really deep systemic corruption in this country. But my perception of General Mkhwanazi is he's an absolute G for doing
mm,
what he did. Regardless of whether or not protocol was followed, but
mm,
it seems like he saw the importance of addressing the nation and telling us what he alleges is going on, right?
mm,
And we need more of that in this country, because if we keep following the status quo and the system of of the process we need to follow whenever we have situations like this, nothing will ever get fixed ever. So I think we need more of this. We need more people in positions of leadership in this country to come out and expose corruption where it's happening. No more covering things up, no more hush hush or no excuses. We need to address corruption directly. And one thing we need to see a lot more of is convictions. Why are people, and it seems like Umkuno has been given a leave of absence. Like, so basically, he gets to chill. He gets to chill and not
mm,
face a single day in court over some serious allegations. Because this the whole disbanding of the political killings task force team, it's to deal with a very serious issue of violence in the country, of political violence. It's like we can't live in a nation where we claim
mm,
to be governed by civilized law, but then our leaders are engaging in political murder. It's like we can't have that, man. But like crime is one of those things in this country that we just can't take lightly. We can't. It's a threat to everyday South Africans. Safety is fundamental, guys. We can't keep making excuses and letting things slip by and letting things pass. So, but my biggest issue with this is I don't think we can trust the very same corrupt government to investigate itself. You know, like can we can we realistically trust the
definitely.
ANC government to investigate its own deep corruption? We can't. So then the question is, what must happen now? And I think the answer, or what the answer should be, is in the form of what General Mkhwanazi. He's one of the very few leaders in this country who's come out to say, look, this is what's going on. There is deep corruption happening right now, and he's addressing us directly as the people. And the funny thing is that he did this when our president was in Brazil for the BRICS summit or something. And
Mm,
it's interesting that he seems to have bypassed the president himself to address the nation, to say, look, there's some crazy shit going on, and we have very powerful people who are engaging in corruption, and they're trying to gatekeep something that's supposed to help fix or try to address the issue of political killings in the country. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like I just feel like our government and our law enforcement doesn't have teeth, and I think Mkhwanazi is a good example of of that finally happening. At least for once, we have someone who has integrity and comes out and says, this is what's happening, and he's being transparent about it. Now, of course, we still need evidence, you know? We can't just we can't just take allegations at face value. We need
Mm.
evidence. But I do admire the fact that he came out straight up and came out with what he perceives to be a shocking truth that affects everyone in this country.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'll first start off with the general sentiment, right? The general public sentiment regarding General Mkhwanazi is we believe him. That's what the people are
Mm,
saying. We believe General Mkhwanazi with what he is saying. We commend him for being brave enough to put this out there because this was something that would have never probably seen the light of day, you know,
mm,
and should it had seen the light of day, right, when it came out, it wouldn't have been as shocking and as urgent. It wouldn't have had that shock value that it
mm,
had when General Mkhwanazi brought it out there in a press conference. So I commend him for that first and foremost because we need to know the truth. I personally feel like this scandal, if I can put it that way, for lack of a better term, is way worse than the state capture issue that we all witnessed a few years ago. Because of just the violent criminal element, that it that
mm,
that that it has in terms of the killings, the connection with the drug cartel, the fact that you have you have ministers, you have you have cabinet ministers, you have judges, you have high senior officials in the police system who are on payroll with these drug cartels.
mm,
It's a deeply, deeply, deeply serious situation where, like, the security, right? The security of our country, also the judicial system, and just generally the political and parliamentary system of this country has been gravely, gravely compromised
mm.
because of the players involved. And it speaks of a rot within the country, which is why people don't trust our government anymore.
Straight up.
And for him to bring this up, like, I was also telling Raz, like, as much as he did bypass like certain protocol in terms of bringing this out, I felt like he had the need to bring this up to the people because of the very serious nature it entails, and the fact that you have the police minister who ordered for the political killings task team to be disbanded because of some of his associates who were implicated, and most likely he was also implicated in this. There's a lot of
Mm,
things that this political task team found out which was not supposed to see the light of day, and without General Mkwanazi's press conference, we probably would have heard about this like 6 years from now. Not 6 years, sorry, but like 6 months from now.
mm.
And
6 years is not even
the
that unrealistic, bro.
urgency, you
Honestly,
reckon,
honestly, bro.
you know, we would have heard about it. And by the time we heard about it, bro, it would have it would have not had the same type of urgency and potency, if I can put it that way, that it has now. Because this has been brought to light, and there are huge, like, very influential individuals at play, and I don't think the president has done enough, in terms of his own response to this matter, because now you've launched a commission of inquiry, which is going to take about 3 to 6 months to create its own report, gather evidence,
Oh my
and it's
God.
gonna take 3 months to bring up the first report, and an additional 3 months to bring out like another interim report, and then there's a final report. Like, what can't you do in what can't you do in 6 weeks that needs to be done in 6 months when it comes to this, because this is a very urgent matter. You have high profile criminals who are influencing the political sovereignty of our country,
Mm.
and you have also like serious drug cartel players who are really compromising the security of our country and its judicial system. So those are very grave and serious allegations that General Mkhwanazi has brought up. But also, another question that I'd like to raise is something that that Upenua also raises, like, who are these drug guys? Who are these people involved in this? Because
Mm.
we're hearing about the minister and the other people implicated, but who are these guys bringing drugs to the country, right?
Exactly.
And why is the president? Why did the president decide to take this to respond to this with the manner with yeah why did the president decide to respond to this, right, in the manner he did with the solutions he said that he's going to bring? Like, why must it take so long to
Mm.
investigate this kind of matter, where you find in other countries it'll take a much shorter time and someone would be impeached and implicated and someone would be arrested, and another question that I'd also like to ask is, you see with other countries, right? And this is something, I'll forget the guy's name on YouTube, but I think it's Mighty Jamie. If I hope I'm getting his name right, because this is a guy whose content I actually enjoy. But he was
Mm.
also saying that, why is there not a panel of journalists interviewing the president after the press conference? Why was there no Q&A
Exactly.
session held to hold the president to account? Because you find that Donald Trump Donald Trump always has a panel of journalists that he answers to after every press conference. So does Putin, and so does like Macron. Or like, if those guys can do that, right? Why can't our president do that? But it's not like that in particular is not something I'm putting a knock on Ramaphosa per se, because that was also the formality with Uzuma. Zuma would also hold a press conference,
Mm.
address the country, and then he'd walk off like nothing happened. So that's another element where people have a lack of trust when it comes to our government and holding them to account when it comes to this sort of thing. So I was very disappointed in our president. I won't even lie,
Mm.
right? But
Extremely.
it's not a shock. It's really not a shock. Everyone was anticipating that we were going to have another commission inquiry that is going to drag on for a long time, uh, and millions of money of the taxpayer will be spent to figure this thing out. And there's going to be a list of recommendations to be done, because the commission itself and the report doesn't necessarily criminally bind people, to it doesn't criminally bind people to the crimes that and the allegations that are being made. It just brings up a series of facts and findings, and then it provides a list of recommendations as to what needs to be done next. So where do you guys possibly think this could go next?
Yeah. So, in terms of where this might go next, I don't know. I think we're just gonna see another repeat of the lengthy um, process of the something similar to the Zondo Commission, where a process that was supposed to take a few months or several months will be dragged on over several years. Because if we keep following due process as it applies in this country, in a government that's deeply corrupt, we're just going to see another dragged on, process where no one gets locked up. People get accused of things and there's an entire process, but then no one gets locked up, and then we just end up wasting millions of taxpayer money, rands, pouring into this whole process where we're not even going to see the fruits of what's going of the result of everything. So yeah, I just think it's just my opinion is I do think that we need to follow due process as much as we can, because Oxalayo, the law is the law. We can't deviate from the law. But at the same time, it's like, what is the point if the law itself doesn't really help us? If it just if it just stalls things and allows the corrupt more time to hide behind process and hide behind their allies, and how does that help us? We are the ones who are going to have to deal with the issues in this country, the issues of violence and crime. But yeah, I think I like what Mkhwanazi did. He set a good precedent, but at the same time, we do need to remember that yes, we need to follow rule of law. We need to follow due process of innocent until proven guilty. Yes, we need the facts first. We can't just go on hearsay and ride emotion. But yeah, man, it's a crazy. But I have an observation about this where, and it's something that you addressed earlier when it comes to the criminal syndicates. Like, who are these people? Why don't we know who these people are, and why do they have such a deep influence on this nation politically? And I'm afraid that if we don't deal with this with the quickness, where we might find ourselves in a similar situation to an El Salvador, before Bukele's extreme measures. We might find ourselves being run by criminal syndicates, where criminal syndicates run everything, and we get tossed into a violent state of affairs where no one feels safe, you know, because the crime in this country is bad enough as it is. It can always get worse. We've seen this in El Salvador. And this goes back to my point where it's like we need a government and we need law enforcement that has teeth. We need to be willing to break the boundaries a little bit in order to protect the everyday South African. Because we really don't want to see ourselves facing an even bigger crime issue than we currently are.
Definitely, bro. And yeah, with what you're saying in terms of El Salvador and finding ourselves in a situation where we're being run by criminals, like people are already saying that this is a mafia state,
Mm,
and the nature of these allegations prove that this country is actually a mafia state, because it's very similar to, because with what I was asking as to who these guys are, is that we knew about the Guptas and their role in terms of state capture, but
mm,
funny enough, we don't know about these South American cartels who are controlling this entire syndicate, which is a very scary prospect to think about,
mm.
because if these guys are in the shadows, it raises the question as to how much influence and control do they have in the operation of our country. So as much as these are allegations, this needs to be proven in court. General Mkhwanazi needs to back this up with the facts. And I
Mm,
think the fact that the police, not the police, sorry, but the political killings task team was disbanded, there's also an act of sabotage in terms of bringing up the correct evidence that proves all of this to be true. So there's a lot that we are yet to find out. And yeah, man, South Africa is a movie, guys, and we're just here, like we're just watching all this thing play out in real time. And I don't know where this will go next. In all honesty, I just hope, whatever findings are made from this commission, like real action takes place, because we don't want another Zondo commission, because what happened in the Zondo commission? Like
nothing.
nothing. Like no
Absolutely
one got
nothing.
jail time,
7 years down the
no one
drain.
got jail time. 7 years down the drain, no one got jail time. Like the people involved just got a slap on the wrist and everyone just kept it moving. Like that's literally what happened.
People got
And
reshuffled.
people are reshuffled, bro. And we saw with the police minister Senzo Mkhulu being put on special leave, quote unquote. I don't think he's gonna come back to the police minister as police minister,
No.
and we know that this man had ambitions of one day becoming like vice president or like the vice president of the ANC. I don't think that's going to happen now. And I don't know also with the DA pressing criminal charges against him, how far that'll go, because on what basis are you making these charges out of the allegations which have not yet been proven? So there's just a lot in question, bro. And yeah, this really did put our president in a tricky situation, because this is his comrade, someone who is known to be an ally of Ramaphosa. And the fact that this came out, Ramaphosa Nair really had to be careful as to what he does, because there's also a political party that he needs to report to, because
Mm,
this affects them deeply, because there's one of their senior members implicated in this thing. So I think he chose the safer route in terms of the commission of inquiry. But like I said, I don't think it should take as long as he has proposed it, as the timeline he's proposed. And I just really hope very swift and serious action follows from this. So that's all we have to say for today. This has been another great episode with myself, Ndima Silwana, and Raz. And we hope to catch you guys again in the flip side. And yeah, we lost Raz along the way, so I don't think he'll be able to say goodbye, but I'm sure, he's with us, but it's been a very lovely episode, guys. And I don't know if you have anything else to say, Indira. I'll just give you a chance and then, yeah, we can wrap it up.
yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. It was a fun episode. Ended with a bit of a on a grim subject, but yeah, man. Take care of your mental health. Go to the gym, eat well. Call your mom, call your dad. But yeah, man. Check us in the next episode. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Episode 7 of Not Another Pod has been wrapped up, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, everyone.